you so much for your work in partnership with the county, and looking forward to continuing to see what we can do. Mr. Schmidt, we're going to go back to you for part 2.
Thank you. So now we're going to pivot a little and talk about more on the supply side. Housing action strategy update, and again, thank you for having me here today to provide this update. As everybody knows, housing action strategy was passed back in November of 2022 and outlined several strategies that the county should take, and we are required to come back twice a year to provide updates to council on that. So today we're going to talk about an overview, provide some of the updates since our last update that we provided back in January, February, talk about some of the current activities that we're working on, and then leave the last part for questions. So again, action strategy passed under Resolution 2022-162s. The 5 strategies that were outlined were develop new funding and revenue sources, strengthen and coordinate affordable housing incentives, facilitate the use of land for affordable housing, promote middle income production, and reduce development costs and barriers. So we did provide council our nice little spreadsheet here that indexes all the changes. We categorize them similarly to the way the strategy reads. We have short-term, medium-term, and long-term actions. Today we're really only focused on the updates. So related to strategy number 1, we do have some updates from the Marine Howard Fund. To date, we have awarded funds to 1,325 affordable housing units. We will be updating that next year, the performance report that's due in July, so look forward to doing that. We have completed, under construction, and in development. Just recently had one that's nearing completion called Viridian Grove in Tacoma, so we're happy about that. Procurements currently, we do have the residential facility that would be for behavioral health that was allocated out of the last budget. That procurement is working its way through. And we also have the rental housing development and preservation, which the council will be seeing both of those here within the next month or so. We are happy that we were able to get the Balmer Group funding into a project in Pierce County. The Balmer Group is providing funding for affordable housing development, $150,000 per unit. That is private foundation dollars. The project recently received that, was called Addison Grove. We were a partner on that. We applied for and received a Connecting Housing to Infrastructure grant that we used to waive some of their sewer connection fees on that project. So that closed in April, and they are underway with construction on that, so we're happy about that. Strategy 2, the updates you're familiar with. The multifamily housing tax exemption legislation is moving forward. There's a resolution that's being introduced on that, and we're also thinking about the monitoring of multifamily housing tax exemption. We are required to file a yearly report on every multifamily tax-exempt project. Currently, our only one in Pierce County is called Garfield Apartments in Parkland. That's our only MFTE zone, but we are required to monitor that, and we submit a report during the 12-year compliance period to the Department of Commerce. So the more MFTE projects we get, the larger admin burden that becomes, and so we're talking with our SHAPE partners about that. On strategy 3, the Pierce County Community Development Corporation, we did close on a manufactured home park called Ohana Estates. That closed in February. We're able to facilitate a resident-owned acquisition of that project and completed the loan. We will be back in December to report on the Pierce County CDC accomplishments for the year. Faith-based engagement, we're working with our SHAPE partners on potentially convening a summit, so to speak, for faith-based organizations that are interested in doing affordable housing development. We have several faith-based organizations that are actually developing projects as we speak, and are also interested in developing projects. So we really want to foster that, those relationships and expand development capacity through faith-based organizations. Related to site-based requests for proposals, we recently awarded back in February Habitat for Humanity, the Frederickson South project. I believe Councilmember Krueger mentioned Frederickson. We did award that to Habitat for Humanity back in February, so we completed that RFP process. We're also planning an RFP for the East Tacoma property that was acquired from the Department of Natural Resources, probably in this quarter, quarter 3 of this year. So with that, we can go to the next page, which is strategies 4 and 5. And I know Lauren was here from Planning and Public Works, and she had to leave. So if there are any follow-up questions that are really specific on PPW stuff, be happy to have follow-up on that. But cottage housing strategy, strategy 4.2, new middle-income housing types in Pierce County. SEPA action, infield exemption was passed, and incentivized development in urban centers. I know that I'm going to skip ahead to the next slide because I know a little bit about the next one. We are working with the enterprise consultants, and they're doing market analysis and some feasibility. And a lot of that relates to Parkland Spanaway area and middle-income housing production. And that's really looking at what's the available land, zoning, how can we get up to 4, potentially even 5 units on lots in those areas so we can really focus in on that workforce middle-income housing production. Homes that are not in the 725, more in the 500, 400,000, many of which may be condominiumized. So more to come on that, but that's something that I'm involved with, and also Planning and Public Works. Our economic development team is also involved in that work. Other projects, pre-approved ADUs, Parkland and South Hill Community Plan updates, capacity building. Planning and Public Works did talk about a new housing policy staff to work, supervisor to work specifically on housing policy related to land use. We do have a new economic development director that's starting, and we're really working on more interdepartmental coordination between Planning and Public Works, economic development. I think if we heard a lot today, it's a lot of these things are interconnected. I mean, income is needed to have housing, there's land use, supply issues. It's all interrelated and all things that need to be addressed. So anything on the spreadsheet that we updated, I'd be happy to talk about as best I can. Again, if there are anything really specific to the work that Planning and Public Works is doing, be happy to take that back to Lauren and her team and answer any specific questions that are on that. But be happy to answer questions on the strategy update.
Thank you. I'm going to pause and see if there's questions. I have a couple, but want to always let my colleagues go first. Okay, I'm not seeing any lights, so I'll go, and maybe it'll spur a question between one of them. So one of the things that I guess it's more a wonder, Mr. Schmidt, Ms. Connolly and I were talking through all the different times that you have to, or someone related to housing, have to come and report to the council. We are curious if the department potentially thinks it might be a good idea to try and synthesize something that basically creates a single, here is how we are going to develop, manage, support housing, and have it be a thing, like not all these different things with different rules and different dates. And like we had a list. So you've got the Marine Howard, you have to come every 2 years. Housing action strategy is twice a year. Annual use of housing inventory, MFTE, spending plans, state adding some tools, and then you conveniently, which I appreciate, send us the what's in the pipeline, I think quarterly as well, which you don't have to send us, but thank you for sending it because that's one of my favorite reports. So just wondering, would it make sense to really dig into all of these like things and go, if we really are trying to, on a policy level with all these different departments and all these policymakers, get it building more affordable housing, what's the best way to collect metrics, track information, and for public transparency, but also for all the different movers and shakers. And is all of these scattered reports the best way to do that? Maybe it is. So just looking for feedback in a really long-winded question.
Yeah, I can give you my perspective without having talked to department leadership. But from my perspective, I think consolidating a lot of the reports is a good idea, whether that's once a year or maybe some one-offs here and there. I think it gives a really better big picture understanding of what's going on, because you get a piece of homeownership, but how does that fit into everything else we're doing? And then housing action strategy, and how does that fit into everything else you're doing? You get bits and pieces of it. The spend plan I thought was really good and kind of giving a perspective, but then how does that tie to specific activities that we're doing? So I think wrapping that all up into one report and maybe some one-offs here and there on specific items, I think that's a great idea. To the other kind of question on public transparency, we are working on a couple of things in that space. We are working on affordable housing inventory, which tracks every single deed-restricted affordable rental housing unit in Pierce County. We are going to put, we are working with IT, the data team, and doing a public-facing map of that. That's still in the works, and we're hoping to get that done pretty soon, within the next couple months, and roll that out. So that would be something that the public could go to and see, pick a spot, and here's the project, and here's the details on it. So that's one of the things that we're working on the public transparency. We do also have some stuff on the website, but I think it would help kind of tie everything together on a kind of an annual, like, here's what affordable housing did in a variety of different areas in one report. From my perspective, I think that would be helpful, beneficial.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So maybe something for us to kind of work on from our side of the house as we think about how best to help us as policymakers and the work that we do. And then I think I'm just really interested in finding ways to make the work as transparent and easy to find for the community. As we start to invest more, this county in this space was not as highly invested, but we are now investing millions of dollars. And I think there's going to be a need to make sure that we are tracking so that we are held accountable to the public and people can easily find it. I was able to, because I understand our website and I know the places to go, kind of put the picture together, but public, not so much, or nonprofits that are looking, or maybe even outside investors that are looking for what's the county doing. So I think it's something that could be really helpful, because we have like Open Pierce County, but then if you want to see what your team is doing, that's not on Open Pierce County. You have to go to your page. And then, so other questions that maybe popped up for people? So my other question, and kind of goes back to what Committee Member Krueger was talking about, is the cost increase. So one of the wonders that I've continued to have is the impacts to the housing stock in relation to short-term rentals and corporate home purchasing. So entities that just come in and buy houses, and then I don't know what they do with them. Some of them they turn into rentals. Some of them seem to sit vacant. That's what I'm seeing in some communities. What are the impacts to housing costs for those? I didn't really see it called out in the report. I don't know that we've necessarily directed or asked anyone that question. So it's just a curiosity if it's something in your expertise has come up as a topic.
I think it's come up as a topic, but we haven't really dug into the research for me to give you any really intelligent answer, to be honest, about what the impact actually is. We know that short-term rentals take homes out of the market, and they're great. I've used them before in other, and the corporate purchasing of single-family homes. I don't know what the data is on that in Pierce County right now. It would be interesting to do that research and see who is actually buying the homes, because I think the number that Sharana put out there was that Dr. Madera said 22% of people can afford to buy based on their income. Well, that how is all the other homes being bought? So it would be definitely an interesting thing to look at, but I don't have really concrete data to point to.
Okay. We'll put a pin in that question because I know it's one that has continued to come up. So any other questions or comments? Ms. Connolly, did I forget any question that I was supposed to ask? Okay, that's why I write them down. No. But okay, well, Mr. Schmidt, I really do continue to appreciate the level of detail that you and your team share with us as you help us understand what's going on and how responsive you are. And then I know that we continue to have the conversation, some of the stuff that's in here around like the SEPA exemptions in some of the areas, some of the work that we're doing. I know we'll continue to come back again to Committee Member Krueger and Committee Member Ayala's question about like building housing. How do we build more housing and some of those impacts? So I think we have work to do with our department on how we speed up while still protecting life and safety in land, but speed up the process for permitting because in the construction world, I'm always reminded that time is money. So understand that that's one of the things. And then I know that we have other concerns from committee members. So not seeing anyone with raising hands. So I'm going to look to staff to see what we're talking about next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Or not next week. Oh, Committee Member Krueger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just was wondering if perhaps there might be an opportunity to, hear from the building entity and how they are viewing the lack of housing for different levels of incomes. Is that a possibility?
Can I clarify the question to make sure I'm understanding? Do you mean the people who are building the housing, or do you mean employees who are trying to find housing?
People in the industry that could share the obstacles in lowering the cost of a home to help further home ownership with all different levels of income. I just, there wasn't a spot here to be able to have additional input, and I don't know if they were on the committees that put these reports together or not. So it's just a thought for future. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We can chat more because I want to make sure whether it would go to EIDC or here, because I get what you're talking, so we can chat. Okay, Ms. Connolly or Ms. Waterland, one of the two of you to tell us what we're doing. We are in committee reduction, so our regularly scheduled Health and Human Services meeting 2 weeks from now is not happening. So what are we doing whenever we're meeting next? I actually don't know. I think once more this month, or maybe not at all.
No more this month. Okay. So the next meeting of this committee will be on August 4th. It will be staffed by Andrea Kelly, special guest, not a special guest to the council office, but to this committee. And so that will include 2 to 3 presentations. The first is a presentation from Duke Paulson, Executive Director of the Tacoma Rescue Mission, who will provide updates on the Good Neighbor Village and men's